Morning, everyone. Give it a little bit of time here. It's 11 o'clock, just rolling in. Another minute or so, we're gonna get rolling. Solid flexibility fusion. Kind of just waking our body up, getting things moving. Maybe things are feeling tight. We're stiff throughout the crazy workouts throughout the week. We're gonna get ourselves rolling on this, stretch ourselves out. All right, looks like we're here. If anyone's rolling in, we'll chime in a moment. Welcome. My name is Scott Paradis, coming in from 3CDSB Edmonton. Just bringing you a flexibility fusion class today. So working on a little bit of that flexibility mobility. Again, this is something that is great for this time of the week, mainly because we've just had 4 days or 3 days worth of some solid activity, some solid exercises, workouts, craziness going on, stress, things like that. This is that time to be able to relax, relieve all that stress, leave it at the door, don't bring it into the room or outside, on the patio, on the deck, on the living room, wherever you are, leave it off to the side, don't worry about it right now for the next hour. From then on in, we can pick it up and pick up with life where we left off. But now, can't change anything. Have fun with it, relax. It's a super slow class. It's not gonna be anything super strenuous. We're still gonna feel a little bit warm. We're gonna take some muscles and some good stretching. It is something that, again, we tend to forget about. If you've been doing our classes, you've been getting this, great. We always add that flexibility, that cool down, everything down at the end of our workouts. This is just one day to really focus on it, because sometimes 15 minutes isn't enough for that body to relax and be able to recoup, stretch out, feel good about itself, okay? So this is gonna be that hour where you're gonna have that chance. So you're gonna move at your own pace. If I'm moving too quickly for you, you can just follow behind the video as we go, okay? If you want to hold something longer, please do so. If you're finding something painful, cut it back. If it's still painful, stop, okay? Before we get into it, we're gonna start with a disclaimer first, then we're gonna talk about a little bit of flexibility to mobility, and then we're gonna get ourselves rolling. So again, super slow, nice, easy, relaxing class. I'm just gonna turn the light on one sec. There we go, not like it helped, the sun just died on me, so here we go. In response to COVID-19, PSP is offering virtual fitness to Canadian Armed Forces members. By using social media platforms, the virtual fitness classes tailored to the Canadian Armed Forces personnel become accessible to all. Participants who are not part of the CAF recognize and acknowledge that their age, their health status, and their physical fitness level is unknown, and entirely up to each individual to assess the ability to participate in this class. Okay, since it's preferable to consult your physician before beginning any exercise program, we invite all participants who are not part of the CAF to consult the Get Active questionnaire, which we have posted down below through the Canadian Society of Exercise Physiology. Okay, if you experience pain or difficulty during the exercise printed in the video, it's recommended that you do stop and consult your healthcare provider. Now, with that being said, we are going to go into some slight discomfort, so know your limits between pain and just a slight discomfort, all right? If you're unsure, always err on the side of caution and make sure that you stop and consult that healthcare provider. If you are a CAF member and sustain an injury during this class, please remember to fill out your CF98. That way we can send it through proper chains and make sure everything is covered for you 110%. So, getting into it. Missing the last week's class, I don't know what was talked about in the flexibility fusion that Kristen has done. Just to go through a couple little things, I had a couple questions from some clients asking for just a quick definition and difference between flexibility and mobility, okay? They seem to get intertwined at times, especially in the fitness industry, that they bounce off one another and it's the same thing. And they're actually slightly different. One is a component of another, but they're actually two separate entities, okay? And I'm gonna give you an example of that to give a better understanding around it. So, with flexibility is the ability of a muscle to lengthen, okay? So our static stretching, that long holds, that's the ability of that muscle to lengthen. That's what flexibility is, okay? A lot of people think that's mobility. Flexibility is that stretch, okay? A dynamic stretch is still a stretch. It's not mobility just because we're moving through it, okay? So flexibility, the ability of a muscle to lengthen. Mobility is taking a joint through an active range of motion, okay? So being able to perform through an active range of motion. So you can see how that's different, okay? An example, we're doing hamstrings. You try and touch your toes, you stop, you feel the tightness in your hamstrings, you blame the hamstrings, okay? We're not flexible enough to touch our toes. That's the misconception that we get. We're actually not mobile enough to touch our toes. And there's a lot more factors that are going on under that. It's not just the tightness of the hamstrings. It could be a tightness in a hip complex. It could be knees. It could be spinal problems, or tightnesses, balances, imbalances, weaknesses, over strengthening on one side, compensation patterns, a whole ton of different things. So if you can't touch your toes, it's not necessarily a flexibility thing, it's a mobility thing. Because you're actively trying to take your hip through a range of motion, which is also in turn trying to pull on the hamstrings, trying to flex the spine to get down, so many other factors that come to it. So think of flexibility and mobility as flexibility is passive, meaning you're not actively trying to do it yourself, you're passively trying to get there. And mobility is more of an active thing. So you're physically trying to contract things and move things in order to get through a range of motion, okay? Does that make sense? Of course it does, perfect. If you don't, we're around at the end of this class. Fire the questions down into the comment after the class is done and we can further explain what we're trying to say and show meaning around that. So going back to my example, we bend down, we can't touch our toes. That's a mobility problem. Most people think it's a flexibility problem. But if that same person lays down and just brings their leg up into an active leg stretch, so if they come down and they bring their leg up, leg straight, and we hold, you can notice that I can get to 90 degrees. Most people get to about 70 degrees, so they're out here, right? This feels comfortable for me. If I really force it in, I can get there, but on average, we're about 70 degrees, okay? So 70 degrees of hip. That's enough to technically touch my toes, right? With my back on the floor, my legs are longer than my torso and my arms, so that's why I can't touch it, okay? But I know my hip can get into that flexible range. So when I come up here, and I can't touch my toes, I just proved that my hip can do it passively. But when I actively try and get down there, there's something else that's limiting me, okay? Now in my case, I can get down there, but you'll get to a point where the hip stops to move, you need to then start to flex the lumbar and into the thoracic spine to get further down. And that's where I mean your mobility is hindered, it's not the flexibility that's hindered. Because that one joint in the hamstrings, yes, they're tight, but I can use other joints to get there. If those other joints aren't being facilitated through and aren't working properly, you're not gonna get to your toes regardless of if hamstrings or not. Make sense? Perfect, good, that's awesome. Now you can start to see that difference between flexibility, mobility. Flexibility is passive range of motion. Active range of motion is your mobility. Okay, so when you want to work on a squat, you don't work on stretching, you work on mobility. You work on getting through that range of motion actively. Because you're loading your back, doing it passively, you're always contracting muscles to squat. Not to say that flexibility isn't the right way to go, that might be a small piece to it, but you might want to focus more onto the mobility side of things. So actually how to open up the hips, how to get the back moving, how to, whatever the problem is within the body, and everyone's gonna be different. That's the hard part. Each person's gonna be different, everyone's gonna have different issues that are happening. Maybe you've got something congenital, maybe you just got low back problems, maybe you have hip issues, maybe it's just tightnesses and weaknesses, maybe it's imbalances. There's so many different things. And that you have kind of assess yourself. If not, you're reaching out to one of us or you're consulting that professional to be able to say, hey, can you take a look at me? Can you tell me what's going on? Can you help me through this? And that's definitely what we're here for. All right, that makes sense? Perfect. So let's get into some of these guys. I'm gonna start with some mobility, which is gonna be our warm up as well. Normally, if you're gonna do a static stretch, I highly recommend this. I usually try and leave my stretch days to a Friday. And that's just me, that's the way that it works for my programming, stuff like that. This is a bonus because I get to teach it, so it forces me to do it as well, so it's perfect. Because sometimes, again, we do forget to do this guy. So, I leave mine to the end of the week, and I make sure that I do at least 35 to an hour, okay? 35 minutes to an hour of just stretching, nothing else. You can add some mobility and stuff into that, yes. But like I'm talking no squats, no weights, no nothing, just stretch. And it is a piece, again, that at the end of workouts, it is great to add in. If you have other goals, you need to dedicate a stretching day as part of your routine. That is working out. What I mean by that, you're trying to get into your stretch, or into your splits, sorry. So you're trying to work on, say, front splits. Doing squats and stuff, people think, oh, it's gonna tighten me up. That's fine, but we need to keep mobile as well. You need to dedicate those 2 to 3, 4 days a week to stretching and mobility because that's part of the goal, okay? Yes, it is a subsequent thing for someone who's lifting weights, runners, things like that. But at the same time, what's your goal? What are you aiming for, right? A big one that people tend to relate to flexibility and mobility is, I want to move pain-free. I don't want to be in pain, I don't want to be tight, I don't want to be sore, it sucks. But what do? We keep hammering it out of the gym, and sometimes we forget to come back and hit those finer things, which is that stretching, that flexibility, the rest, the relax. Okay? That's what we're working on in the next hour here, or in the next, in this case, 45 minutes, which is perfect. So I've got 10 different things, depending on how time flows with this. I want to do a lot of talk between some of these, just to give a little bit more explanation as to why we're doing them, what it's targeting. I'm also going to ask you a lot to check in with yourself and say, hey, how am I feeling? How does this feel to me? Where do I feel it? Why do I feel it? And is it the same left to right? Okay? That one's key. Symmetrical is very important. You'll get a lot of people that will say, and myself included, that both sides of my body suck. They don't do very well, they don't work very well, but at least they're even. If you have one side that always feels super dominant over the other, that's actually causing more of a problem potentially than it is to at least be crappy on both sides evenly. Okay, does that make sense? It sounds really weird, but as long as left and right are equal, it doesn't matter how strong or how weak, as long as they're coming up together, that's perfect. The second you start to see this, you start to see some problems, all right? Here we go. Grab your water, still important to hydrate. So I've got mine sitting back behind me here. So take as many water breaks as you want. Again, move as slow as you want. Don't necessarily rush through things, but if you want to add a couple extra reps, if you want to take a couple extra seconds of rest between each one, just to let the body relax into the next pose, that's fine as well. You do you, okay? This one's no rush, this one's no flying through. This is the take your time. If we hit a certain area, say a shoulder or a hip, and it's way tighter than usual, spend an extra minute on it. You'll hear me throughout the video. You'll be able to catch right up to me as we go. So don't rush. Don't feel like you're falling behind. Take the time. Take you. All right. You've got your water. Throw some music on in the background if you like as well. I like to do them here. No music. I haven't worked out with music for quite some time, so I'm just getting used to it. But if you do need those tunes, pop those on now. So let's roll down to the floor. We're going to start on our stomach. Now, explaining this guy, I'm going to explain standing up. So you're going to pretend like I'm laying on the floor. Then I'll get on the floor and I'll actually explain. So we're on the floor, we're flat. Left hand directly overhead, so I'm laying flat on the floor. My right hand is on the back of my head or the back of my neck. And then we're going to rotate. So we're going to do a passive extension. You've seen it before in other of our videos where you've seen us down on the floor. You've seen elbow to knee, hand on the back of the head, and then this guy. We're doing the exact same thing, but I'm changing the vector of it, and we're actually going to lay down, okay? So in that close pattern, we're getting a little bit more into the lumbar. I want to get a little bit more of the thoracic, so that's why the hand comes overhead. So again, down you go. Head in neutral. I'm going to look up to you guys so it doesn't look like I'm just talking to the floor. Your head's in a neutral position, hand overhead, other one behind. Point your toes. Don't place the toes up, point those toes. Hand behind the head or on the head. And rotate open. You're gonna get a little bit of a roll, but I want you to keep your hips on the ground, okay? You're gonna get some slight movement in the hip, but I still want the hip down as much as you can. Hold for 2-3 seconds, slowly come down. Keep repeating, 4, 5, 6 reps, whatever feels good. Just really take your time with it. If you got right hand on the head, try and pull that shoulder blade back. So squeeze. You're going to feel it between the spine. Your breathing pattern for any of this stuff, we exhale as we come up. We inhale as we come down. So we're squishing the air out, pulling the air back in. So again, as many as you feel. You can do 10, 15, 20, it doesn't matter. As long as you're going slow, you're not torquing, right? We're talking spine here. Switch hands when you're ready. If you want to take a couple more, go for it. But when you're ready, you're switching hands. Other hand comes up. Hand either to the back of the head or on the neck. Doesn't matter, your choice. Neutral. And open. Now, as you do this, compare. Is left better than right? Can you rotate more on your left than your right? Is the right better? Do they both suck? Key here, try and lead with your elbow, okay? So we'll get a lot of people that kind of just rotate here because they don't have this flexibility. So, lead with the elbow. You might find you don't go as far, and that's okay. Just take note. Couple more here. Nice and slow. Beautiful. Take both hands overhead. Just sink the head down. Crawl the hands forward. Try and really stretch out the lats, the shoulder. Hold here. Get neutral spine. You can place your chin right to the floor, or you can tuck your nose in. Either way, whatever feels good. Just breathe into it. Try and relax, melt into it. All right, slowly pulling those arms in. Pick your favorite side. Doesn't matter which one. Lay on your left side or your right side, kind of like you're side sleeping. So, what that's gonna look like, make sure the shoulder is directly under the body, okay? So we're laying right on it. We're not kind of laying off of it. We're stacked right underneath the body, straight out. Hands on top. Then I want you to pull your hips, knees, ankles to 90 degrees. Now, I can't see myself. I'm probably pretty close. The other thing that you'll notice naturally is our body rocks backwards, and you're gonna notice the knees are at two different lengths. I want the knees perfectly stacked on top of one another. If not, even better, I want the top knee slightly more forward than the front knee, okay? This prevents you from rolling backwards as we do this. Now, those knees do not move. If you need a strap, if you need a belt to hold them there, use one, it doesn't matter. But all I want you to do is actively keep this. If you want something around your head, you can as well. I like to just lay down. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Nice and easy a couple times. Inhale through the nose. As you slowly exhale through the mouth, you're gonna slowly open up. You're gonna take 10 seconds. You're gonna keep watch with your head. You're gonna look at that hand the whole time. Now take a check. Did those knees move? Right? This tends to happen because we want to get to the ground. We don't necessarily want that. If you can get there, great. You're better than like 95% of the population. Knees together. That's as far as I get. And all you're going to do is relax into it. Don't fight it. Don't pull. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. And just sink. You'll eventually start to notice, as you've seen with me, I'm starting to sink down without my knees changing. So my knees aren't actually rotating back, it's just gravity starting to open me up. Some people feel it really more in the shoulder. I'm really feeling it across the hip to the chest. As you take your next breath out, inhale through the nose, sweep overhead. Come back to the start. One breath. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, take your 10 seconds. Notice how much further you just went. Maybe you didn't move at all, maybe you moved a ton. Now the pull might have changed. Now you might start to feel it maybe more on the chest. Maybe now you're feeling it more in the shoulder than you didn't before. Mine shifted from kind of across, mine straight across this kind of complex, right across that shoulder, that capsule. Take that last breath out. On your next breath in through the nose, overhead. Again, restack, reset if you need to. When you're ready, inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. On your next inhale in, sweep overhead. One breath in and out. Switch sides. Same thing. Hips, knees, ankles. Hands together. I'm totally like out of shot. Hips, knees, ankles. Together. Again, relax the head if you want. Put something underneath it, a foam roller, pillow, couch cushion, whatever. When you're ready, inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Open up. Same thing. Now take note. This side better, this side worse. This side's terrible. Let gravity do the work. When you're ready, inhale through the nose, sweep overhead. Take a normal water. One breath. Inhale. Exhale. Double check those knees. Mine are starting to cheat. I need to recorrect. All right, one more. Inhale through the nose, around. One breath. Inhale, exhale. All right, overhead. One breath. Beautiful. Come on up. Again, if it's feeling good, take another moment, take another one. Do one more rep, that works good. Grab your water if you need some. Better hydration, great for flexibility, great for mobility, get things moving. All right, cats and dogs next. Some people call them cat-cows. Same kind of movement. We have a stationary cat and dog, and then we're gonna do an alternating cat and dog, so like a rotational one. Maybe you've done it before, maybe you've never seen it before. Great for lumbar extension with a couple parameters around it. So, hands directly under shoulders, knees directly under hips. When you're ready, try and drop the hips. Look up while you do so. Some people get that instant tightness in that low back. So if you have low back pain, that's the people who tend to feel it. So you can ease it off just a little bit. Hold 4 or 5 seconds, then I want you to tuck your chin to your chest, and I want you to try and pull mid-spine to the ceiling. So trying to push chest towards hips. Really round the upper back. Slowly let it drop down. Head up. Tucking in. Again, this is number 3 of 5. Again, if you want to do more, you definitely can. Keep things slow, nice flow. All right, tuck it back under. If you're getting any popping and creaking, as long as it's not causing any pain, that's okay. It means things are starting to move.
So maybe something's alleviated. You got a crack in the spine, all of a sudden you're like, yeah, okay, that feels so much better. All right, number 4.
Maybe as we're going through, now all of a sudden that low back's not feeling as tight. All right, back under.
We got one more each way yet. And back out.
All right, back under. All right. Take a second to pop out of that, give your wrists a little bit of a break. Maybe the back's a little bit stiff from doing that one. Sometimes it does like to tighten up on us. Take that second. Next one is a moving cat and dog or a rotational cat and dog. So all we're doing is we're staggering our hands. I call it a rocking cat and dog. I'm just gonna get this out of the way. Boom, there we go. I'm gonna face you guys so you can see what's going on. So from the front, still hands under knees, shoulders under hips. Nothing's changed, okay? Take one hand, move it a palm's width forward. This is gonna look better from this side. All right, so from here, palm forward, so a palm length forward. Same thing with the right. So if my right hand went forward, right knee goes backwards, that one palm width. So not much. Now, pretend like you're in 2 walls and the walls are hip to hip. So there's no side to side translation. There's 0 lateral movement, okay? So as you go forward, it's gonna shift weight from your right to left hand, which is fine. Ideally, you wanna keep it as even as you can, but because the hips are rotating, you're gonna feel a little bit of a change, okay? But just make sure that the hips aren't swaying, they're only rotating. How far do you go? As far as your body lets you, okay? If you can get out fairly straight, great. If not, it's wherever you're feeling the greatest tension, then you stop there for a moment and floss, okay? We're going back and forth for 10. So, in that position, again, picture it that you're as straight as possible, rock yourself forward. You'll notice that my right hip starts to drop because that's the open side, but I'm not swaying out to the side, okay? So we drop and then push back as far as you can. Again, you're gonna feel the hips rotate. Again, don't drop to the outside. It's just straight back. Forward again. Should start to feel a little bit easier as we go. If it doesn't mean it's not working. It just means the body's being a little bit resilient to wanting to change. You know, one more here. Again, it's quality of the movement. It's not necessarily quantity. Make sure you're keeping as still as you can. Now, switch your hands. So bring that right hand back. So everything reset. Back under shoulders, hips and knees aligned. Left hand forward, 1 hand width. Left knee back, 1 hand width. Exact same thing. Hands are straight. Try not to rotate them out. If you're feeling wrists, fists. But fists are in line, not this way. I want them turned to the side, all right? Here we go. I can tell right away, this is my tighter side. This side is not moving as well. And this is where I said compare left to right, all right? Because now I know the body's starting to tell a story that my left side has a dysfunction. Now the question is where? I have no idea. I need to sit down and figure that out. Do I know where mine's coming from? Yes.
Everyone's going, where? I'm trying to focus and talk at the same time. Little interesting. I've got arthritis in both my hips. I've had for 18 years. Actually, I'm sitting on almost 20 years. So that's why I know that my one side's worse than the other. And it's my right hip that's really bad, so my left side's the one that's getting all the compensation problems. Because I'm compensating over from the bad side, and the good side's now getting worse. But knowing that, and comparing left to right, I can then work on that, right? So sometimes the hardest part is just taking the time for yourself, listening to your own body, and figuring out what it's telling you. It's being very subtle, but we're just not paying attention to it. Now this side's starting to feel a little bit better. Things are moving a little better. Right? Beautiful. Again, keep going if you need to. Stop if you need to, whatever it might be. Our next guy. Some people call it thread the needle, some people call it a martini server. Why it becomes a martini server was just a really weird thing that came up with it. But some people are giggling because they know what I'm talking about, because I have prescribed this exercise to many people. Basically what we're doing is we're reaching underneath and we're flossing, okay? So it's almost like a golf swing while we're still in that hands and knees position. So, wrists are bugging us, loosen them up. Get them moving. We've been in this position for a while. Give yourself a moment, stretch. If you're feeling okay, let's begin. Same thing. Hands under, knees under shoulders, oh my gosh. Knees under hips, hands under shoulders. You're trying to keep just a rotational pattern going. What I mean by that is as we reach underneath, which is movement number one, I don't want so much of a drop because that's a flexion with it. If you want to drop with it, as long as everything's rotating together, you're going to get a slight drop. It's just like a golf swing. As we drop, we start to drop this way as we rotate, okay? So it's a lot of reflection, but everything's still staying symmetrical and even before we rotate. So palm goes up, we go underneath the body. As the palm comes back, we then rotate thumb up and go behind us, okay? Those are the movements we're making. Here's what it looks like before I go through it again. So, keeping an eye on me, hand comes up, we reach underneath. Again, you'll see that slight drop, but my back is still straight. We then come underneath and over with thumb up. Palm. Thumb. Make sense? Again, if you want to drop that little bit because it helps, great. This is phase one, so there's a progression to this one. So, 5 of these, nice and slow. Rotate just from the spine. Thumb comes up. Don't force anything, don't swing, no momentum. I want this active. This is our mobility, because I'm actively taking through a range of motion. Keep that neck nice and straight. Everything's a good alignment. This is last one. Good. Take a second, switch sides when you're ready. Again, palms underneath, everything stayed the same as those last 2. Underneath, palm up, thumb up. Again, keep an eye on it with that head. So we're rotating with it. Really good, really good. Last one. Beautiful. All right. Now, progression number 2 to this guy. As we go, keep in control. Don't fall over on me. I want you to now shift the hips as you reach under. So if I'm reaching under from right to left, you're going to then shift towards that left. So whichever way that hand's traveling, you're going to shift the hips the same way. Again, what it looks like. Same thing. We shift,
As we come back, we shift as far to the other side as we can as well, without stumbling, okay? So here we go. 5 again, palm up. As you reach under, you rotate and shift. Now, the rotation and the shift should end at the same time, if possible. So I don't want rotate, shift, and I don't want shift, rotate. I want them together. So they stop together, they stop together. That's 1. Stop together, 2. 3. 4. 5. Good. Other side. We're going to go through the other one first, then it's easier to explain what's happening as we go. As you go through, feel. What does it feel like? What are you feeling? So I'm going to ask you that after these 5 reps. Underneath and shift. Compare left to right. What's it feeling like? Last guy here. Good. Come on up, grab some water. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about what you felt and where. All right. What did you feel? Where was it tight? Left to right? I can't hear you, assess yourself. For me, I found that using my left hand down was easier than my right hand down, which is very strange because according to the other one that we did the rocking, I'm actually opposite. So you can notice how just by changing forwards and backwards to a left to right, so sagittal plane to frontal plane, same load, but in a different angle, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to function exactly the same. I'm the opposite when I move in the lateral plane than when I do in the frontal or in that sagittal planes, right? So that front and back, I have a different dysfunction than I have left to right. Is that a good thing? Absolutely not. But I've been working on it. So that's why I'm asking you. Because the more you are aware of your own body, the better off and the better chance you're going to go and try and do something about it. Okay? So it's just bringing that mindful practice is what I like to call it. You're thinking purposely of what you're doing. You're not just doing it to do it. You purposely have a focus on it. And that's important, right? When you're going for that big heavy PR squat, if you're not focused on it, you're gonna eat it, right? You need to be in that zone. You need to be focused on only what you're doing and nothing else. If all of a sudden something pops into your head of like, oh, what am I making for supper? Oh, I gotta do this with the kids after work. Well, that lift is not gonna happen. Or it's gonna be extremely difficult with potential high risk injury, okay? So, we've compared. Now, what did you notice as soon as we added the shift? The reason we did the shift is now I wanted to load and mobilize the tissues that move us laterally. Mainly, most people have probably felt it in the side of the hips, in those glute medis, right? It's all the band walks, all the glute bridges, all the booty band stuff, all that stuff that you guys have been working on. That's the stuff targeting the sides of the hips. This is just a different way to load that tissue, right? Without having to actively go ahead and do lateral lunges or side walks, things like that, monster walks, banded walks, all that kind of stuff, right? So, feels good. All right, next guy. If you found that shoulders are tight, which we all do, right? Don't lie, we've got a computer, whether you're at home or at work, a computer makes us do this automatically, right? That's just what we do. We can't hold this position for very long. A, because we don't practice it, we're not mindful of doing it all the time. We've got one person in our office, I'm gonna call him out Rich. Rich is really good at it. He's very good at sitting up straight, good posture, keeping everything super strong in that aspect. The rest of us are all like slouched and like arched over and like the typical, right? You're sitting on the couch, you're doing absolutely nothing, you don't got good form while you're sitting there watching TV, playing video games, watching a movie, whatever it might be, right? So, this is why we do this stuff, is to correct that. Shoulders are tight. We're gonna do what they call a reverse sleeper stretch. So, if you're going, well, what the hell is even a regular sleeper stretch? The regular sleeper stretch
you've probably seen before, shoulder underneath, and it's this guy, or some variation towards this, just so you have an idea what the sleeper stretch is. So the reverse is I want to be able to work into the anterior capsule of it. So you can sit, you can stand, you can kneel, you can do whatever you want with this one. All right, placing your hand around the back. So I'm not far behind me. You don't have to come way across. The closer to the hip, the better. Okay. You might already feel a little bit of a pull here. Now, this is the fun one. This is going to see where mobility plays in if you want a really good one. This is something where we're going to look at that mobility. So if you've seen, there's a great video, and it's one of those little joke meme things. You've probably seen it on Facebook. We may have even posted it on some of our PSP social media. It's one where it's a big, huge bodybuilder just to a dude that's got some muscles, and they stick a piece of tape on the back of each other's back and see who can grab it off. So the other guy's got it, he's no problem, and that bodybuilder's way out here. He has no chance whatsoever. So this is exactly what he's gonna kind of look at. So hand behind. Your opposite hand should be able to grab that elbow. If you can't, you can load up and you can actually try and swing the arm across. The thing is I don't want you bending and contorting to get there. I want the back straight while you grab that elbow. How many are going, how the hell am I supposed to do this right now, Scott? Now you already know, if you can't reach this, you know there's some dysfunction. So we should be working on that, especially in a very crappy joint like a shoulder, right? We want to keep those as healthy as we can, because when those ache, when those don't work right, your presses are garbage, you know, it doesn't feel great, they're sore, lifting hurts, all that kind of fun stuff, right? So the kids come and run, you don't even want to touch them because it hurts so much. So work on it. Here it is. I'm going to give you a cheat because I know there's someone out there going, I can't reach it, Scott. What the hell do I do? You're going to find the edge of a wall. Now, I don't have an edge of a wall that's close by within frame. So I'm just going to show it off of a chair. You're going to pretend that this is the wall, okay? I'm actually going to turn it that way. You're going to kneel down beside, or in this case, technically with a wall, you're going to stand, okay? You're going to keep that position. You're going to place the edge of the elbow on that wall. Now I need to be able to go past the wall. So whichever wall you're using, make sure it's a doorway or something that you can then get past. Without leaning or tilting or rotating, all I want you to do is walk backwards. So it's gonna pull this elbow forward for you, okay? So you're gonna walk backwards till you feel that stretch, okay? So if you were standing on the wall, you would just walk yourself backwards until it pulls that arm. But for the people who can reach, and you should be able to reach, I'm gonna jam you up a little bit if you can. Fix that. Grab one. And I want you to now just slowly pull it forward. So from our start position, we reach across, we pull forward till we feel the stretch right up in that anterior capsule. Slight discomfort, no pain. Super painful, stop it, okay? Or you can try easing off first, and then if it still hurts, don't do this stretch at all, okay? Just wait for the next one we're gonna do. So, hand comes on, we feel that stretch. Now what I want is what they call a contract relax. So I want you to try and pull your arm back to the start position with no movement. So this hand's gonna actually resist. So you're gonna pull as hard as you can. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax completely, and it should move a little bit more. And you'll notice you can now really kind of see like my elbow's almost in an opposite position. So it's really helped that stretch. You can do that 2, 3, 4 times. We're not gonna for time, but if you wanted to, you could repeat that after holding it for about 10 seconds. Repeat for the 5-second pull, again, 5-second pull, again, with a 10-second static hold in between each one. Great for the shoulders. Let's go to the other side though, so you can at least get a comparison. Again, you can't reach this, shame on you. Should be able to. I find this side, comparing left to right, like I always talk about, this side's so much easier to grab than the other side. I've got more mobility in this shoulder than I do in this one. It's my bad one. So, same thing. We're here, grab on, pull. You'll notice that this side for me already goes further. So again, try and resist. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go. Wow, got a good rotation on that one. That was good. 10-second hold. Again, if you want to repeat a couple times, go for it. Definitely more the merrier, but there always is too much. Ideally, you want to repeat at least 2 or 3 times. Again, for that one and for time, a lot of people feel that one after 1, so you really have to be in the right mindset to go through that one for reps. But if you can do 2, 3, 4, 5 reps, that's bang on, that's perfect. All right. Kneeling groin stretch. Again, we tend to forget about the hips, the groins, things like that. We always focus on quads, hamstrings. We tend to sometimes forget about glutes. More often than not, we do hit them though. Sometimes we do forget about them. But the biggest one is like adductors, groin, things like that. So, kneeling, standing, I prefer kneeling, depending on the floor surface you have. This one is meant to be kneeling, but you don't have to do it kneeling if you don't have the area in the house or where you are to do this. So, kneeling or standing, you're gonna be in the exact same position. Notice that the knee's directly under the hip and directly under the shoulder, and same thing here. I'm not way out here. I'm in a nice straight line, but I'm shoulder width apart, or hip width apart, sorry. I'm not way wide and I'm not super narrow. Most people, when they get into a lunge, they do this and then they fight the balance. I'm stable, I'm sturdy, right? From here, hands come out, we rotate over the front leg, nothing else move. No shift, no nothing, it's just a rotation. So you have to squeeze glutes, you gotta do whatever you need to keep yourself still. Most people will do this when they lose balance, okay? We rotate, we hold for 5. We come back, we go up, no push, no nothing in the hips. We just flex back, almost like a back bend for 5. Then we drop the one hand and we flex over. This is the only time where you get a bit of a bend, be able to keep balance. If you can get it upright and still bend, even better. You're gonna push into this leg a little bit. You're gonna feel more stretch. So less of this, more of this with the bend, you're gonna feel it. All right, 5, 5, and 5. Switch sides. Get your position. When you're ready, your hands come out. Rotate for 5. Try and keep the shoulders down. None of this. Shoulders down, nice and tall. Come back and up. Hand comes down and over. Right? Again, you can repeat that one 2, 3, 4 times. Kneeling hip stretch. This one gets a little bit interesting. There's 6 parts to this one. I tend to forget one, so I apologize if I do. It's basically a small step process. It's a mix of world's greatest stretch with that groin stretch. Okay, so a little bit of external rotation, so it's a little bit of glute, as well as that 3D stretch or that world's greatest, whatever you like to call it. So, one leg on the ground, it doesn't matter. You're going back into your tripod stance, so you're here. From the side, this will probably make a little bit more sense, right? We have our lean, you'll notice that the back leg's not off the ground, but I'm in a stretch, right? Hands are under shoulders, I'm not kind of half out. I'm all the way out, back's nice and straight, shoulder blades are squeezed together, all right? It's gonna make more sense to see from the front. So, I've got myself set up, boom. Number 1. Number 2, hand goes on top of the foot and push the knee out. Good. Hand goes back, opposite hand goes onto that one, we drop down to the elbow. Next step, other hand comes back up top to that knee and we push it out further. So you can tip that foot if you need to. As you notice here, you're just holding the foot so it doesn't slide. Keeping the foot down, we push back into like a hamstring. You'll find that you probably can't get your leg straight, but both hands still beside the foot, just like they were at the start. You get some shakies, that's the body trying to relax itself, and then back to the start. So that's all the way through, okay? So again, other side. We do the exact same thing. So, foot's on the ground, remember toes are pointed. Number 1. Hand on foot, same hand, same foot, push the knee out. Again, if the foot rocks up, that's fine. Hand comes off, opposite hand goes on top, you drop down to your elbow. And again, knee goes out. Sorry, not yet. Good, next guy, hand up, push the knee out. All right, both hands back up to the side. Sit back, stretch the hamstring. If you can pull toes up with your foot straight, that's even better. That's kind of next step, that's more advanced. And then back stacked over top. Good. Back to the first side. We're gonna do it one more time. This one's killer good. I really want to drive this one home. Really, really good stretch when you have the time to take some patience with it and just slowly ease into it. Remember that breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? All right, step one. If you find you can get yourself a little bit deeper now, you can move that foot forward an inch or two just to recreate more of that stretch. Step two, hand goes up, knee goes out. For most, as soon as that knee goes out, that's where that groin comes in. All right, switching hands, drop to the elbow. Hand comes up to the knee, push the knee out. So try and create a little bit more. Again, it should be slightly uncomfortable. That's the way it goes. If it's painful though, back it off. If it's still painful, stop. All right, both hands back to side, kick back, stretch the hammy. And then back to the start. Beautiful, switching sides. Last one on this side. This one feels amazing. You should feel yourself sinking in more and more with each part of the rep. So, number one. Number two, hand on. Push that knee out. Step three, switch hands, drop the elbow. Step four, hand comes up, push that knee out. Step five, hands beside, kick back. Step six, back to the start. Beautiful. Slowly walk yourself up. Grab that agua, shake the wrists out. If you've been feeling wrists a lot, because there has been quite a bit on those hands, and we're feeling the tightness across the top of that wrist, body's talking to you. Now you know you need to work on something. Most of it is the opposite way. A lot of it is just getting used to loading the tissue in this fashion. Because normally, we always go down with the wrist, but we never come up with the wrist as much in comparison, up to down, right? So when we go for a mouse, we go down. When we write, we go down. A lot of things are a push down, not a pull up. Also because it's stronger this way than the other way, right? Even when we lift, we'll do this. We don't let this happen so much. This is more passive as well, going that way. So it's really loading the top of that forearm, right? So whether it's little wrist curls, heavy lifts, work on your grip, work on just loading the tissue, okay? Two more. We got 6 minutes. This is flying through. I'm feeling so much better already. Always do that quick reassess. I always talk about that, kind of gives almost that hippie, spiritual kind of feeling, but it just gives you that drive of like, I'm thinking about what I'm doing, because again, if it feels good, we tend to want to do it more, right? So if it's feeling like things are starting to loosen up, things are starting to feel a little bit better, maybe pain is decreased, tightness is decreased, it brings us to want to come back to this again and add a little bit more of this into our routine, right? Now, with some of it being mobility, you can actually add it in prior to your lifts. So it is a bonus as well. If you say, oh, I don't get time at the end, you can actually throw some of these into your warm-up. right? Depending on what you're doing. So lateral lunge with a walkover. So demonstration first. All right. So if you can't get down as far as you just saw me do, that's fine. Get as far as you can. If you need to use a yoga block, a chair, side of the couch to hold you up, that's fine. Key to this one is that rotation of the foot. Normally in a lateral lunge, we keep that foot flat, but as we drop down deep, I want you to turn that toe up, okay? So it doesn't matter which way you go, it's your choice. You're gonna take a full lunge first and slowly lower yourself down, hands on the floor, turn your toe up. So when you're ready, go for it. So it's a nice slow drop. There's my stretch, but to get lower, I need to turn this up. Now, if you need to be able to get your heel off the ground to get this low, that's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can get the heel down without falling over, ideally even better. I haven't been working on that in a while, I used to be able to do it. Slowly pull yourself back up, so you're gonna turn the hip and plant the foot first. You're gonna slowly straighten as you walk across, load the opposite leg. Let's see. Nope, not a chance. All right, slowly coming up, pivot the foot, slowly shift that weight across. And who knows, as we go through, you might start to sink and actually get that foot back to the floor, if you were someone that could do that. All right. Again, if wrists are bugging you, fists are fine, right? All right, one more each. Nice slow shifts, toe up. All right, last guy. Yeah, that's really not happening. All right, slowly rock the foot, slowly come back up. Hinge from the hips, keep your back straight, slowly bring yourself back up. Grab some water, we got one more. Last guy of the day. Back bends, wall bridges, whatever you want to call them. It's gonna be a little bit tougher to see. Again, I don't really have the setup for this one in here. My camera angle's not the greatest today. What it's gonna look like is you're gonna stand about 16, 18 inches away from the wall. So foot and a half away from the wall, hands come up. Straight. If the elbows are bending, you really need to know that you need to work on that stretch, that mobility, right? So from here, you can push the hips forward if you need to, but you're just gonna bend backwards, touch your thumbs to the wall, come back. Touch your thumbs to the wall, come back. Nice and slow. After you do 3, 4, 5, step forward a few inches if that felt super easy. Again, small steps, heading back, heading back. Notice that everything stays in line. Head's still in line with what the thoracic spine is doing, so if it starts to extend a little bit, I extend a little bit to keep it neutral, okay? And again, you're gonna work your way out till you feel like you're gonna fall into the wall and you're not coming back from it. For some, you're really feeling the stretch out the front. This is working on that nice extension. So we're really trying to get that extension into the spine, which is not a bad thing. You hear a lot of it's terrible in certain circumstances. Absolutely it is, but this one's really good for it. If you really wanted to work on back bridges, you're gonna basically just get palms behind you. Then you can start to walk yourself down and walk yourself up. The other one you can do from here is you can start to translate, right? So you can start to just work on some different stretch, things like that. So
If you got questions, and I know there usually is with a class like this, I bring something just a little bit different to the table most days when I do these. So if you got questions for the next 15 minutes, we're gonna be down below answering any of your questions. I hope everyone's super enjoyed. Again, my name's Scott. Questions, comments, send them down below. Subscribe to the YouTube, the Instagram, or Facebook page. If you got any questions, reach out. We're here for you. Hope everyone stays safe, enjoy some sunshine, get outside, enjoy the afternoon. Take care.